If somehow it was not obvious, I am a huge Gilgamesh and Enkidu fan. I mean, just look at my collection of Gil and Enkidu figures, plushies, cards, keychains, rubber straps, tapestries, and the list goes on. So of course, I'm very excited to finally give my thoughts and opinions on the TV special OVA of Fate Strange Fake Whispers of Dawn by A1 Pictures, especially after seeing it during its world premiere at Anime Expo 2023. If for whatever reason you're watching this video but you have not given it a watch, if you have not given Fate Strange Fake Whispers of Dawn a watch yet, please click off and watch it right now. I promise you it's very good, especially if you're a long-time Type Moon fan. Not even just Fate, just Type Moon in general. If you're a long-time Type Moon fan, you will enjoy it. Just make sure before you leave though to leave a like, because why not? Overall, I would say Fate Strange Fake Whispers of Dawn is pretty much everything I was hoping it to be as a manga reader. I also read a little bit of the light novel, which is a lot more detailed than the manga and anime, of course. But I could tell this anime is mainly based on the manga, since a lot of the scenes are almost carbon copies of manga panels and the angles and whatnot. Should be noted, by the way, that even though you don't necessarily need any prior Type Moon knowledge to watch Strange Fake, because I think they do a pretty decent job at explaining the Holy Grail War and everything that surrounds it. In my opinion, I don't think Fate Strange Fake is the best Fate to start the Fate series. It's definitely not beginner friendly because it makes a crap ton of reference to Zero, Case Files, even Tsukihime, which some of you guys might be surprised to hear, but it does make some references to Tsukihime. In fact, it's actually pretty integral to certain plot points. That, and if you've never seen Fate before and therefore don't really understand Gilgamesh or his character, his backstory, his powers, then his entire interaction with Enkidu towards the end of the movie is probably not going to mean anything to you. It's like not going to have any impact at all. So again, I would not recommend Strange Fake to a new fan at all. I would say the longer you've been a Type Moon fan, or rather the more knowledge you have about Type Moon, the better your overall experience will be with Fate Strange Fake. So just keep that in mind when getting into it, that there are certain references and nuances that you will appreciate a lot more if you've watched other Fates and experienced other Type Moon works. But anyway, the first thing I really want to talk about is, of course, the animation. Like I said earlier, this anime is being done by A1 Pictures, who previously worked on Fate Apocrypha a couple years back. But even though they're both done by A1 Pictures, I think everyone would probably agree that Strange Fake visually looks so much better than Apocrypha, probably thanks to the additional support from MAPPA and WIT Studio, as well as the fact that the same animation team that usually works on FGO's animations, like their trailers and their openings, are also working directly with Fate Strange Fake. So the anime is definitely in great hands. Granted, to be fair to Fate Apocrypha, of course, this OVA kind of has a movie budget and also had an additional 6 or so months of additional work to polish it, because it did get delayed back when it was supposed to come out in December. Nonetheless, I do have full confidence in the animation team and A1 Pictures of delivering more quality visuals once the actual TV series drops. And yes, you did hear me right. If you did not know, it's not just a one-time OVA and that's it. They did officially announce a TV anime at the end of the world premiere, which is insanely exciting. I don't know exactly when it's going to come out. It should be probably within the next year. Either way, they could take as much time as they need to, if it means getting something that we got with Whispers of Dawn. So when you compare the final product of the OVA to the initial sneak peek we got earlier this year, you can easily tell that improvements were made throughout the months of its delay, with certain effects, lighting, details, and really the animation as a whole looks a lot better than it did in the initial sneak peek that we got, which I already thought looked pretty good, but they just built upon that. From Gilgamesh's overall appearance in the beginning being improved upon, to making Orlando Reeves look less janky, I guess you could say, from the way he looked 3D in the initial sneak peek to how he looks a bit more 2D in the final product. A lot of welcome changes, at least in my opinion, were made, which I really appreciated. It just means that the delay was actually used to further improve upon what they already had. They even added a rainbow spark in Gilgamesh's summoning at the beginning, which of course is a nice little reference to FGO, which if you haven't played FGO, when you see a rainbow spin, it means you're going to get a 5-star, which is exactly what happens here. Gilgamesh is a 5-star and the guy gets Gilgamesh. So I thought that was a pretty cool Easter egg. I don't know if it was intentional but in the original sneak peek, there was no rainbow spin or rainbow spark. So I like to think it was a nice little reference, a nice little nod. And something to keep in mind is that Strange Fate takes place in America, specifically the West Coast, the California and Nevada area. And the directors themselves personally flew out from Japan all the way to the California and Nevada area in order to research areas like Death Valley and Echo Park and just the cities in general, just to make sure that they get an accurate representation of West Coast United States, which I thought was pretty cool. It just shows that they put a lot of effort and care and detail into their anime. Again, it's those small details that are just awesome. And I'm sure some of you would have preferred UFO Table, who of course did Fate Zero, Fate Unlimited Blade Works, and the Heaven's Feel movies. I'm sure some of you would have preferred them, but honestly, I think UFO Table's slower yet cinematic style would not have matched Strange Fate's much more, I would say, chaotic and fast-paced story. I feel like if UFO Table animated Strange Fate, yes, it would look amazing. The fights would look off the chain. It would look absolutely insane. I don't think anyone would argue with that. But given the 55-minute runtime of the OVA, I feel like if UFO Table had that same time slot, I feel like they would have cut out a lot of story and character-related stuff in favor of like cool cinematic shots, which is what they're known for. And of course, I'm not saying that A1 is better than UFO Table or that UFO Table is bad necessarily. I just think the shoe would not fit as well if UFO Table was the one handling Strange Fate. At least that's in my opinion. And to be fair though, it's not like A1 did like a picture perfect, accurate adaptation of the manga or anything. They did cut some corners for the sake of runtime. For example, one of the handful of things that they omitted is that they totally did not explain Gilgamesh's original master's backstory. They just showed him summoning Gilgamesh and then he just sort of dies. And they do this a lot throughout the OVA, where they cut a lot of like dialogue that, in my opinion, because for example with Gilgamesh's original master, like there's no point in giving him all this backstory when he literally dies 5 seconds later. So it honestly makes sense to cut his stuff out. I think most of the cuts that were made benefited the overall pacing and story. Again, they only had a 55-minute time slot, so they had to cut some stuff out. That's just how anime works. Although I could see why some people may not like how it was executed, because in the end of the day, everything is subjective. I will say one of the biggest differences between the anime and the manga is that the pacing is a lot different, in the sense that each chapter in the manga, at least in the beginning, focus on a certain set of characters each chapter. So every chapter would focus on different characters, whereas in the anime it would like cut back and forth between this character group and then that character group, and then it would cut back and forth, whereas in the manga it didn't really do that. And honestly, I don't know which one I prefer. I think they're both okay, they're both fine. I didn't really have an issue of the cutting back and forth, nor do I have an issue with the manga just focusing on one set of characters at a time per chapter. Aside from those things, the anime is pretty spot on with the manga, if I remember correctly. So again, respect to the directors and the writers for adapting it as faithfully as they can within the time slot that they were given. Now I want to talk about the music, because I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I love Hiroyuki Sawano's music. From Attack on Titan to Seven Deadly Sins to Kill la Kill to Recreators, just to name a few. This man just never misses with his music, in my opinion. And of course, Strange Fate is no exception. Which leads me to my favorite scene, which I'm sure some of you guys already know which scene I'm talking about, because it's pretty much everyone's favorite scene if they like Strange Fate or if they have read it before, and that is Gilgamesh and Enkidu's reunion. And I use the reunion as opposed to fight, since objectively speaking, as a fight, it really wasn't too crazy visually by Fate standards, especially when you compare it to, like, let's say Heracles versus Saber Alter or Rider versus Saber Alter. It isn't as choreographed. It isn't as like back and forth, I guess you could say. And it really only lasts for like a total of like 2 minutes. So again, as a fight, I could see why some people might call it underwhelming, especially since people like me, you know, we've been building up this fight for years now. But see, with me, the reason I really enjoy it is because I always look at the bigger picture. As in, what does their reunion mean for the rest of the story? How does it affect the rest of the story and the characters? What makes it stand out from every other Fate fight out there? Because typically in Fate, if you've watched several Fates in the past, Masters and Servants try their best to keep their presence, identities, abilities, noble phantasms low-key and a secret, since that would give them the element of surprise in the war, and you know, they don't want to reveal their weaknesses or their strengths to the enemy. That, and it's important in general for mages not to, you know, reveal their identities or reveal the fact that magecraft exists to the public. I think that's what really gets me like pumped up and hyped about Gilgamesh and Enkidu's reunion, because for that moment, they don't really care that there's a war going on. They don't care that they're not supposed to reveal themselves to the public. They don't care that they're potentially giving away their strengths and weaknesses to the enemy. They just don't care. All they care about is saying hi to each other, essentially. This is what this is. It's a reunion of friends who haven't seen each other for a while, and the way they say hi to each other is by literally revealing their trump cards for the entire world to see. This is why Fallius was so caught off guard, because he was like, wait, what? You guys are already gonna start? Like, the war barely began. Like, you don't even know what the enemies are capable of or anything. Again, that's what makes this scene so powerful to me, because it's all about the context and how unorthodox or strange it is for them to start off the series like that, because it pretty much sets the tone and sets the standard for the rest of the series going forward. Even the music that plays during Gilgamesh's Gate of Babylon clashing with Enkidu's Age of Babylon, the music doesn't really give me the vibe that this is a fight. Yeah, the music is epic because at the end of the day, it's Hiroyuki Sawano. Anything the man puts out is going to sound epic. And of course, there's like weapons and explosions flying everywhere. But more so than anything, the music has this kind of happy and nostalgic feel to it, which again, I think is exactly what Gilgamesh and Enkidu's reunion is all about for both them and for us hardcore Gilgamesh and Enkidu fans. In other words, I don't think this scene is meant to be looked at as a fight. It's meant to be just looked at as just two friends shooting the shit, like literally shooting the shit. So for me, I think this scene was pretty perfect. Pretty perfect. And call it bias, call it whatever you want, but hey, that's just my opinion, dog. So visuals, great. Music, awesome. So of course, we also have to talk about the voice acting, since ultimately that's kind of what brings the emotion that ties everything together. For context though, I was at the world premiere of Strange Fake, like I said earlier, at Anime Expo, which if you didn't know or if you weren't there personally, it was actually shown and premiered English dubbed rather than Japanese with English subtitles. So while I would have preferred to watch it in Japanese, my first viewing ended up being English dub. But to my surprise, I think the English VAs did a wonderful job for the most part. And as much as I love Gil and Enkidu, I think the English voices that really killed it for me were the voices for Francesca, Castor or Alexander Dumas, and Jester, especially Jester for his English voice. Jester's English VA just made me cringe, but in the best way possible. You might be like, well, English dubs always make me cringe, you know, that's not anything new. But I think in this particular case, it made me uncomfortable, but it was intentionally supposed to make me uncomfortable. Like literally, major props to Jester's English VA. I don't think they picked a better person for his English voice, because he genuinely made me cringe with how deranged, kinky, evil, freaky this maniac was, you know what I mean? I thoroughly enjoyed Jester's monologue, thanks to a large part of his voice actor absolutely slaying it. And as far as Gil and Enkidu's voices are concerned, as far as their English voices, I should say, I think they did fine. I think they did pretty good, especially David Vincent, who's been voicing Gilgamesh for a while, so I'm a bit more used to his voice than Enkidu's English voice. I think they did fine. I think the one thing that I was kind of iffy about, not gonna lie, was during the initial Enuma Elish, when they both said Enuma Elish together. I don't know, I just feel like it didn't have that oomph that I was expecting from that scene. It was a bit underwhelming with how big that scene is supposed to be. Otherwise, I think the English voices were completely fine. As for the Japanese cast, which yes, I did rewatch Strange Fake, both Japanese and English, several times over, to be honest. And I'm sure you guys probably could already tell, the Japanese cast, nothing to complain about. Absolutely nothing. They slayed it all the way through, especially the Enuma Elish line. That one was what I was expecting, that oomph. So no complaints there at all. 100% Japanese cast is the way to go in this particular case. But again, English voice cast is fine as well. I've been saying for months or pretty much years that if they were ever to animate Fate Strange Fake, as long as they nailed the Gilgamesh and Enkidu's reunion with the voice acting, the music, and the animation, I would be completely fine with the rest of everything. And just based on everything I just said, I think it goes without saying, I think A1 delivered with all my expectations, and I really look forward to see how they're going to adapt the rest of the series, because you might be thinking, oh, it probably just goes down from here, since the Gilgamesh and Enkidu reunion, it was like the best scene for you. And let me just say, it doesn't. It actually gets a lot crazier later on, and you guys will see once it's animated. And this might be a hot take, and you know, a little bit of Gil bias there too, but I think if A1 Pictures keeps everything consistent visually, makes everything look good, and the story is adapted the best way it could be adapted as an anime. I think if everything sticks to landing, I truly believe Fate Strange Fate has the potential to be the greatest Fate anime ever. I truly think that highly of the story. Not even just Gil and Enkidu, which they're a large part of it, of course, but literally all the characters and all the intermingling storylines are all really good, and I can't wait to see how exactly it's going to be portrayed in anime form. But there you go. That is pretty much my review of Fate Strange Fate Whispers of Dawn. I loved it. I hope you did too. And if you didn't watch it, I hope you will too. Of course, give me your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Like the video if you like it. Dislike it if you dislike it. Why not subscribe to me, the main character? Because without you guys, I'd be the only character, and that would kind of suck. That would be a little bit depressing. So, keep me company and subscribe for more Fate-related content, Grand Order-related content. And of course, when the TV series comes out, just expect me to do like a weekly reaction to every single episode along with a review. And I'm very excited for when that time comes, because I did it with Babylonia, and I'm ready to do it with Strange Fate. It's exciting times. It's exciting times for us Fate fans, for Gilgamesh and Enkidu fans. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.